what does he want for his child so far? She needs to be a little bit beautiful, but not a lot. She needs to be courteous, wise, and kind. Okay, next stanza. May she become a flourishing hidden tree, that all her thoughts may like the linnet be. A linnet is a bird in the tree of her, right? And have no business but dispensing round their magnanimities of sound. Not but in merriment begin a chase, nor but in merriment a quarrel. Oh, may she live like some green laurel, rooted in one dear perpetual place. Okay, now he's really wishing here for her. He wants her to be like a tree, a beautiful tree. And in that tree, her thoughts will be like the birds that sing and are generous with their songs. He wants her thoughts to be generous, and he wants her also to be rooted to one spot. So don't go running around the world, traveling and touring. Just be happy here in one perpetual place, to be rooted. Now, this can seem quite limiting if you're the type of person who loves adventuring and exploring. And if this little girl is like that, she's going to disappoint him. But what he's hoping is that she'll have roots, that she'll have a place she belongs, and that she'll be happy there. And she'll want to make her home a beautiful, happy place, a calm and nurturing place, and that she won't feel the need to go looking for happiness in other places. She'll be rooted in a perpetual place. All right, well, you can see he has his own idea of what happiness looks like. Next stanza. My mind, because the minds that I have loved, the sort of beauty that I have approved, prosper but little, has dried up of late, yet knows that to be choked with hate may well be of all evil chances chief. If there's no hatred in a mind, assault and battery of the wind can never tear the linnet from the leaf. Remember, the linnet is the thoughts in her tree, the bird of thoughts in her tree. So let's go back. Okay, so he says his mind and the kind of beauty he approves of and all of that hasn't gone perfectly recently. He's had some downs in his life, and recently things aren't necessarily going smoothly. I mean, things are not going smoothly. But to be choked with hate is even worse. To have your life that, with hatred in it is one of the worst, one of the chief evil chances. So he thinks that would be bad. And he says, if there's no hatred in the mind, then no kind of wind will be able to tear that bird from the tree. So the wind is all the troubles and the, loss and grief and problems that life brings you. But if you don't have hate in your mind, then your thoughts remain like the bird, beautiful, generous, singing in spite of the troubles. That's what he hopes for her. Next stanza. An intellectual hatred is the worst, so let her think opinions are accursed. Have I not seen the loveliest woman born out of the mouth of plenty's horn, because of her opinionated mind, barter that horn, and every good, by quiet natures understood, for an old bellows full of angry wind. Okay, here he's complaining about a woman he has known and loved. In fact, he's asked her to marry him 4 times by now, and she has said no. And she lives a life that is full of travel and adventure. She's been to the continent. She's known as a revolutionary. She fights for causes. And so when he says opinions are cursed, he's talking about people who hold their opinions so strongly that it disrupts their whole family life and the things that he is trying to say make a happy life, or the things that he thinks would make a good life. So he says an intellectual hatred is the worst. So intellectual hatred could be biases and closed-mindedness, but really, since he's referring to this woman who from his real life, I think he's talking about being so devoted to the cause of one thing that you lose track of other perspectives and other ways of handling problems. She's just really an activist, and that hasn't worked out in his opinion. So that's why he says, "Have I not seen the loveliest woman born out of the horn of plenty?" That woman that he tried to marry, because of her opinionated mind, she just bartered that horn. So all the fruits of a good life, she traded those for an old bellows full of angry wind. She traded it for her own activism and her own voice, is the bellows, or is he referring to other men in her life? In general, he's talking about the toll that it took to have her life primarily run by the causes that she was devoted to. Now, she may feel like that was entirely worth it, but he doesn't, and he doesn't want his daughter to go down that path. Next stanza. Considering that, all hatred driven hence, the soul recovers radical innocence, and learns at last that it is self-delighting, self-appeasing, self-affrighting, and that its own sweet will is heaven's will. She can, though every face should scowl, and every windy quarter howl, or every bellows burst, be happy still. So here he presents, okay, if she's not going to be an activist, stirred up by causes, she will be happy because with no hatred in her, the soul recovers this radical innocence. He's thinking of a pure state in which the soul is perfectly in tune with heaven's will, like your will and heaven's will are the same. And then the soul is self-delighting, self-appeasing, self-affrighting. So the soul is in control of the life. And he says she can, though every face should scowl and all these problems, be happy still. So he's thinking this is how to be truly happy, not chasing after all the causes and getting radical, which again could be very satisfying, but not for him, or not for his daughter, he thinks. He thinks instead of that, you should have this soul-centered kind of life. Last stanza. And may her bridegroom, that means the man she marries, right? And may her bridegroom bring her to a house where all's accustomed, ceremonious, for arrogance and hatred are the waves peddled in the thoroughfares. How but in custom and in ceremony are innocence and beauty born? Ceremony's a name for the rich horn, and custom for the spreading laurel tree. Well, he ends this with rhythm that is quite definite. Spreading laurel tree. Okay, and that's the goal he's been talking about this whole time, that she be this beautiful tree with lovely bird thoughts, in herself. And in particular, now he hopes that she will get a house by marriage, and that this man will provide a good life for her, where all's accustomed, ceremonious. So he's picturing a life that's very neat and orderly. And he says arrogance and hatred are paltry things that people buy and sell them in the street, in the thoroughfares. We don't want arrogance or hatred in this house. Instead, custom and ceremony. So he says, how? Except in custom. So following the customary rules, being in the mainstream of social norms and morality, that's the way that he thinks she'll be happy. And through ceremony, making the life, daily activities be well ordered, be on time, just this very neat and tidy life. That's what he thinks will create innocence and beauty. It says that if you have ceremony and you have custom, then you're going to have beauty and innocence. And that he values very highly. And innocence meaning this kind of open friendliness, a person who doesn't lie or scheme or think of elaborate plans, but is just, led by the soul and has a fairly simple, straightforward life. That's what he thinks would be best. And then he says ceremony, so all the like customary ways of behaving and running your home is a name for the rich horn, for the fruits of a good life. And custom is a name for the spreading laurel tree. So the tree that he wants her to be is very custom bound, or in a sense for him, custom liberates you to have this innocent life and beautiful life. But in order to have that, he thinks you need to stay calm, right? You need to stay calm and well ordered and have a very, peaceful life. Now you can probably tell that I'm on the fence about his ideas of what makes a happy life. My personal wish would be that we could have a little adventure and a little travel, and we could still have peace, and we could still have soulful lives. But think about Yeats. Here he is, living in a very turbulent time with Irish and British interests clashing. He's known this radical revolutionary figure who's an activist, who's inspiring, and he wanted to marry her even. And yet he is now coming to say, no, all of this turmoil is causing suffering, and I want this little sweet baby, my daughter, not to suffer. I want to protect her from all the troubles and problems of the world and getting caught up in the problems of the world. Now, if she is born to be a politician, an activist, or to run for city council or for the presidency, then she's in trouble, because her father wants her to not be ambitious and, having this disorderly life. He's hoping she'll have a very peaceful, sweet, calm life. And there's a lot to be said for that, too. I can certainly say that I like a day that's well ordered, that goes the way I plan. And the more generous I am and the more lofty my thoughts, maybe the more likely my day will be even. And when I get problems, I'll be able to manage them and kind of roll with it and, have poise and grace in the face of trouble. And I think Yeats wants that. At the same time, it sounds a little limiting. His picture of a rooted life also implies a stationary type of life that might be a little too restrictive, especially in our time period when we think of having more freedom for sons and daughters, But he is also a man of his time, and I think I can see a lot of love in this poem. He is hoping that she'll have a good life, and he's laying out his argument for what that is. And while we may disagree with him, I think we can't deny that he loves her and wants the best for her, and is giving his advice for that in the poem. Okay, well, I know these are never 6 minutes. Sorry about that. But this longer poem definitely took some time, and I hope you enjoyed it. And, of course, like or subscribe. I would love that. And join me for another video.